Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Before we dive in, let me introduce ourselves today. We have Nikki Green and myself, Rose Canales. Nikki is an experienced recruiter and also the founder of Avid Staffing, a woman owned legal, accounting, and administrative recruitment firm. And I'm in charge of Avid Staffing's marketing efforts. So if you have any questions, feel free to comment them and we will do our best to answer them throughout this session.
Thank you,
You
Rose.
ready, Nikki?
Yes, I am. Let's go.
Yeah. So we're doing this today because we want to, make sure that we give you an idea of how knowledgeable we are in what we do. We are more than happy to share our insights with you because we truly believe that this will help you significantly boost your own hiring efforts. And of course, if you need any additional staffing support as you grow, we would love to be both a resource and a go-to for all of your hiring needs. So today, we are going to focus on hiring methods that we ourselves use at Avid Staffing. So, having a job opening can be a pain to fill. We know that firsthand.
Yes, we
so,
do.
especially, yeah, right. So, especially if it's been open for weeks or even months, it's incredibly important to fill a job opening. And it's also expensive to just have a job opening, right? So, in this session, we're going to talk about the potential reasons this might be happening to you and ways you can fix it as well. So, in the future, you don't encounter this problem as frequently and you know how to target it. So, we're going to go ahead and we're going to have some statistics to help us out. So, what we have here are some stats on US unemployment, right? So, these are recent numbers from US BLS. So, as we have here, there are 6.5 million unemployed people as of February 2024. And then we have 8.8 job openings. So, what do we have here? We have more job openings than unemployed people. So, definitely a candidate's market, right, Nikki?
Absolutely, 100%. So there's a talent shortage, and the
Yeah,
competition is real to find
it
good
is
people.
fierce. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
across all industries. So, with that being said, the unemployment rate in the US is 3.9%, which is very low. And it's been pretty consistent over the years after COVID. So, again, it is more of a candidate's market. And people aren't really leaving their jobs. So, again, it's harder to find talent. There's a shortage. So, with that being said, we want to talk about what top talent is looking for. And this is universal. This goes for, a lot of different industries. And the first one, which is the most important, and Nikki and I talk about this all the time, is salary transparency. So, salary transparency is something that, people often feel awkward talking about this, whether you're a hiring manager or a candidate, but it is incredibly important to have on a job description. Why? Well, one of the reasons is that there are now salary range transparency laws. There's laws, you guys, on this now. Not all across the US, but I think there's like 8 states now that actually enforce this. So, and it kind of makes sense too, because a lot of states there, it's very expensive to live in. So a lot of people want to know how much you're going to be making, before they apply to a job. And we highly encourage this as well because it will save you so much time um, when you interview someone. It just, you kind of go for the juggler when you put the salary range there, but you will get more applicants. We see an increase of applicants all the time on our end whenever we have a job listing that includes the salary ranges. So, we highly encourage that you do it because you will not only have more applicants, but you will have the conversation will just be easier when you have a person interview that first time, right, Nikki?
Absolutely, 100%. And just to add on that, there was a study back done in 2023. They did a survey on recent college grads, and 85% of them said that they will not most likely not apply to a job if the salary was not disclosed to them. So just
Right.
keep that in mind more and more, especially the Gen Zers. They're looking for transparency, and it also, you know, sharing the salary, salary range. What it helps too is attracting more a diverse talent pool, and also closing that that gender pay gap. So again, this is why it is good to share that. And I know sometimes people could be, well, I don't want to share that because it can open up a can of worms. And I understand, but at the same time, people don't want to waste their time. So they want to make sure that,
Right.
hey, it falls in line with what I'm looking for. So again, keep that in consideration. We have seen hiring managers who have done this have had actually better success in attracting more talent. So
Yeah.
that's one of the ways to go for it too.
Absolutely. And if this is something that you aren't really incorporating into your organization, you might have to incorporate it at some point. So, definitely something to look into when it comes to reevaluating your hiring practices. The next thing that top talent looks for are hybrid options. We deal with this all the time. We also work with a lot of professionals in the legal industry, and this is like one of the top things that we usually talk about, not only with them but also employers as well, like going back and forth, like what's the right thing to do here. Hybrid options are really, really attractive. I don't even want to say it's a perk anymore. These are things that people look for now in jobs, having hybrid options. And if you aren't offering this right now, likely your competitors are. So these are things that top talent is looking for, and it's definitely worth incorporating into your compensation package. Um, just look into it, see what would make sense with your organization. But definitely, hybrid options are incredibly attractive to top talent. So just keep that in mind as well. The other things that people look forward to are boosting company culture. You want to make sure that your team is that you currently have right now loves what they do, because they are your ambassadors for your company, regardless of your industry. So when you have a new person coming in, they want to see that this is going to be a place that they want to work at long term. So especially younger generations, we're going to talk about more later, they want to see that. They want to see themselves thrive. They want to feel included. So you definitely want to, create an environment for them to thrive in. And then lastly, we have signing bonuses and retention bonuses. These are things that, competitors are going to be offering as well. So, I mean, it might be different for the industry that you're in, but these are attractive things to lure in top talent. So maybe if you can't offer them a really high starting salary, these can be things that you can work into your offer. So just things to keep in mind when you're trying to, attract more top talent.
Yeah.
So
And I do want to add to all that that you don't have
yeah.
to meet all of those requirements. I'm just saying,
Oh, no,
just
no, no.
an idea like what you said, Rose, which is a great point, is that if you're
Mhm.
having a hard time finding talent, we highly suggest to see like what are you offering from there and what are you not. But again, I think
Right.
salary transparency is huge. Hybrid, those are when people are still looking. And right now, everybody's looking for recognition. So, and I always tell this to their hiring
Yeah.
managers, if you're having a hard time attracting talent, people want recognition, but they also want to be their true selves 100% and see if they can
Yeah.
see themselves working at your company. Because if they don't align with their goals, careers, or their core values, this is why boosting company culture is key to attract more talent as well.
Right. Very well said. In addition to that, let's talk about job descriptions. So these are things that, I mean, when we look at our own clients and they give us a job description for, a job opening that they have, sometimes we have to make changes to it. So if you decide to do this on your own or work with a recruiter, whatever route you decide to take, you have to make sure that your job description really sells the role that you're trying to fill. So if it's hard to read, it's hard to apply to. That's just very straightforward. And you want to make sure that it does a good, job at making the job look attractive. And you want to make sure that it's easy to read. So bullet points are your friend. And you don't want to limit applications by listing too many mandatory requirements that in reality are not really mandatory. We often have great candidates for a role, and they might have 1 to 2 years less of experience that's required by the hiring manager. So we at least have the advantage of being like that, like, third party to like really, communicate to the hiring manager and tell them like, hey, this person checks all the boxes, but they just don't have like all the years of experience that you require, but like they're great. we really see the potential in them. You're going to love them. They check all the boxes. But if you don't work with a recruiter, for example, and you're doing this on your own, you probably are not going to have that conversation. So you're not going to know if this person's actually qualified. And this person's not going to be able to really vouch for themselves. And sometimes you're not even going to have that person apply to the job because they're going to think, I'm not qualified. So don't limit yourself by having, all these mandatory things that aren't really mandatory. So just keep that in mind as well. And the next thing is include salary ranges. We talked about this before. This is going to help you so much more when it comes to job applications. So you don't have to put a specific dollar amount, but you can put a range, for example, and that can, be something that varies depending on experience. So anything else that you'd like to add to that, Nikki?
No, I mean, you just hit all the points, but and again, just adding the salary range, because we actually now we see it like the hiring platform for job like
Yeah,
Indeed is now putting a salary range if you don't add one, even LinkedIn. So we're seeing it more and more and more. It is critical to share that.
for
And it has to
sure.
be easy. You have to be easy to
Yeah,
read and don't some people, I mean, I'm saying there's some job descriptions, I know they're more technical. They
yeah,
have to have more language, technical language, but again, the easier it is to understand, you'll get more applicants too. And again, people they're more likely to, especially, there was a study that women are more or less likely to not apply to a job if they don't meet all the
hmm,
requirements. Which is like, you should still apply if you meet some of the requirements. You don't feel like you check every other box. So again, keep
right,
it kind of like inviting for everyone. And like you said, what are the must-haves and the nice-to-haves? So thinking
right,
outside the box is great.
exactly. And make sure that you're posting your jobs onto LinkedIn as well. I know we're on LinkedIn right now, so we can say that, but make sure that you're posting your jobs on LinkedIn as well. If you're only posting your jobs in your career page on your site, I mean, unless if you're a really, really, really big company and you have a high traffic like on your site, people are not going to see this job and they're not going to apply. So you want to make sure that you're posting this job on different platforms as well to get the most visibility that you can. Now, the next thing that we're going to talk about are hiring practices. So, are your hiring practices to blame for, the vacancies that you have? So, take a look at your hiring practices. Do you wait forever to contact applicants when they apply, whether they're, qualified or not? Do you have a million interview rounds when it comes to the hiring process? Are they interviewing, 10 times with different people each time? Um, Make sure that you're not dropping the ball when it comes to this because a lot of things can be streamlined and they don't have to be so time consuming. Often enough, you can have a couple of interviews with someone and know if they're going to be the right fit or not. You shouldn't have to prolong the process just to figure out if they're going to be a fit. Communication is key, and your interaction with the candidate is their first impression of really working with you guys. So you want to make sure that you also do your best in making a great first impression. And of course, if you're not going to be moving forward with someone, you want to make sure that you still get in touch with them and just, even if it's just an email saying like we decided to move with someone else, make sure that you do, the courtesy of getting in contact with them and, letting them know that you're not moving forward. You never want to like ghost someone or drop the ball because it also isn't the best way of, leaving a first impression on someone with your business. So keep that in mind as well. Communication is incredibly important. And the next thing is utilizing technology in the hiring process. I think everyone has like, used AI at this point. I mean, whether it is for, for work or for personal use, I mean, it definitely is something that can save you so much time if once used properly, of course. But this is also something that you as a hiring manager can use to streamline your hiring efforts. So Nikki and I talk about this too, that AI is great at creating job descriptions. You can throw in a job description that you already have and it can, freshen it up. It can make it look, it can make it easier to read. It can make it be in the tone of whatever company you have. So it can definitely be used to your advantage. So if you aren't using it for that, just, test it out, see if it, makes it easier for you. I definitely believe that companies should be using this in creating job descriptions. It's just, I don't know. I think it just saves so much time. What do you think, Nikki?
Oh, absolutely. We use it a lot, especially when sometimes it's, we have to fill roles pretty quickly and we
Yeah.
don't get a proper job description. We use what we have, and on top of that, we might use AI just to get a more detail, but it's just quicker. It's just quicker. But obviously, we have to put the requirements that the employer is asking as well, because that is extremely important.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you never want AI to have like full control of your description. You want to make sure that it includes everything. But it definitely is a lifesaver when it like you're having a creative block and you want to make it look appealing and you just don't want it to be just, a list of responsibilities. So
Yeah.
definitely good for that. As well as composing templates. If you don't have templates created for, your follow-up emails with candidates, you definitely should do that. We have them ourselves, and it's obviously going to save us so much time, and it's consistent. So you want to save your time, obviously, by having you know, some canned messages, some templates whenever a person moves forward in the hiring process. Even if you want to create something that says like, "Hey, we're not moving forward with you," or could you schedule a time to meet with us? Whatever it is, make sure that you have something created in advance, and it will save you so much time. So that's another excellent way to use technology to streamline the hiring process. Now, this is a great one. I might let you take the lead on this, Nikki, but DEI is incredibly important and something that people are just like they need to see it now across all industries, and it's something that I feel like, I mean, if you don't have it, if you don't talk about it at your company, regardless of what industry you're in, you need to start incorporating it because people are looking for it for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. This is really close to my heart. So, and I know with things going on, been some changes recently. I just want to add that if even if your company has something listed on your website, you have to do more than that. So just having it listed on your website is not going to be enough. Uh, I always tell this that people always want to be their true selves, and when somebody knows and can work at a place that they can be their true self, they're most likely are going to stay. They're going to be more appreciative, and they're going to apply to the job. So even if you have diversity, equity, inclusion committee, you have to make sure that you're doing something about it, because your own employees are going to
Mhm.
be able to talk about it as well. They might want to talk about it on your website, on LinkedIn, because just you even hiring people from different backgrounds, you and I we use sometimes a lot in like in other industries, especially in the legal field. You might want to hire someone who's coming from another country, who probably was an
Mhm.
attorney in another country, and they come here and they can't obviously practice, but
Right.
you might want to hire them as a paralegal, because again, just hiring sometime with a different background can open up the doors to getting more clients, because a client from another country might come in and say, "Hey, I see that you have someone who's coming from who is from our country, who probably understands our culture." Even that person can help you say, "Hey, I am from that country. I understand how things work there, the culture, and I can advise you on things how they like to do things over there." But again, just everyone wants to feel included, and it's just not, and it has to be something that you're constantly making changes, but people want to feel and be themselves 100%. If they cannot be their true self without repercussions,
Right.
they're most likely going to leave. And the best people who can talk about diversity or inclusion are going to be your own employees. And it's not having the faces of your team. I've had people, and this is like just throwing this out there. I've had people can I'm doing this for a long time. Candidates who've actually gone to the websites and say, "Hey, Nikki, I not that many, but said I don't feel comfortable applying for the job." And I say, "Why? It's a great place." "Well, because no one looks like me," and
Right.
that is disheartening.
It is.
So
Yeah.
you and nobody wants to be the first person to do, because like I don't want to be the first one to try it out. So again, you have to make it inclusive, and you have to start talking about it. So just adding it on your website is just not going to be enough. So
That's right.
and again, company culture is huge. You have to start making changes. This is why social media comes in too.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's another great point. Is like you want to make sure that you're also utilizing social media to really, I mean, endorse the company. I mean, like being a brand ambassador yourself is important too, because people are going to look at that company page, and it's not just for clients. Like it should also be for the people that work at your company or people that want to work at your company. They're going to see, oh wow, like they're accomplishing all of these things. They take care of their team. These are things that I look for in my dream job. You know, you want to make sure that you're positioning yourself in a way that will attract the top talent, right? So social media is also incredibly important as well. Like, you don't want to just put all the, the perks of working with us on your career page on your website. You want to make sure that that's across all platforms because people are going to be looking for that as well. So keep that in mind. Another thing is to make sure that you are streamlining your hiring process by asking better questions. And this is kind of a continuation of the part where I mentioned, do you have a million rounds of interviews with different people? Maybe you can have a panel interview. Maybe you can ask management that will be, like whoever that person that you're hiring for, like whoever they're going to be reporting to directly, you can ask them like, directly, like what do you need them to do? So I can ask them. So we can literally streamline this so much more. We don't have to ask them all those generic questions. We can see if they can actually do this job and work with you. So making sure that you have, those questions put together is going to save you a lot of time and it will just make you look more professional overall.
Yeah.
And this is a big one. Nikki can vouch for this. You always want to make sure that you trust your gut because screening for emotional intelligence is something that you can't really ask questions per se to gauge this, but you can just tell by a person's responses to everything else, how they treat you, how they treat the whole hiring process itself. So if you have a bad feeling about someone from the beginning, make sure that you really listen to that because it could be an indicator that this person might not be the right fit for you or the company. So any red flags in the beginning, take them seriously because you don't want to be like, oh, after you onboard them, like I should have listened to my gut. So just keep that in mind as well.
Yeah. Always want to make, I mean, hiring, sometimes even if we follow our gut, we think we did a great hire and sometimes it doesn't work out. But I
Mhm.
always tell everyone, like, trust your gut. It's like almost like dating, right? Not that that's a long time ago. But anyways, like it's like if you have this thing, or unless it's indigestion, but if you feel like it's not gonna work out and it's not gonna be a good fit for your team, and most likely it's not gonna be a good fit for your team because there's nothing worse than hiring someone who's not gonna be a good fit and it's going to create chaos. Your team is not going to be able to work well, and then most likely people are going to start leaving, and you don't want to do that. So again,
Right.
screening for emotional intelligence is key in asking the right questions as well.
Exactly. And so this is also going to be extremely helpful for you all. Nikki and I, we were doing a lot of research on what big companies were doing to, tackle the problem of having vacancies because it's not just small businesses having this issue. Large companies are having this issue as well. So we were also looking at what, in the legal industry, what law firms were doing. And I think it was like there was a really big law firm and they were giving like a $75,000 referral bonus to their staff for referring someone that they ended up hiring and stayed with the team obviously. And I mean, how can small companies compete with that? They can't. No one has those kind of pockets. So how do you get creative and compete with the larger businesses that have that budget? Like how do you compete with them? Because you still can, you absolutely still can, but you have to be creative. So if you're a small to mid-sized business, these are ways that you can still stay competitive when it comes to hiring. So we have here, different ways to stay competitive. We have, obviously offering competitive compensation. If you're still a small business, I mean, obviously money talks. If you have a competitive salary for someone, I mean, that's definitely going to be a selling point. we talked about the hybrid schedule. If you emphasize that, a work-life balance, that's definitely going to be very attractive to someone. Maybe you can't offer them, all the money in the world, but you can tell them like, hey, like I'll let you work from home, like half the week, and you can still spend time with your family, all that. Like those are selling points. Like that's going to be incredibly attractive to someone. A lot of people prioritize flexibility over money. So keep that in mind.
Absolutely. 100%. Everyone does.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
especially for a working parent, like who has to pick up their kids from daycare or at
Exactly.
school, the
And daycares
carpool,
are
or
expensive too.
talk, they're extremely expensive. But I think offering
Yeah.
flexibility is absolutely key. If you cannot offer hybrid or remote, you need to be offering flexibility to even your current staff, even
Right.
to applicants, and when you add it, put it on the job description as well, because you have to don't make an assumption because you don't add it on your job description, even if you're offering it,
Mhm.
people are going to apply because people want to see it. They don't want to waste their time. So,
Right.
and this again, we go back to why your employees are going to be your best ambassadors, because they can talk about, hey, I like working here because so and so it is flexible. It's we talk about the clock in and clock out and back clock in. So,
Right.
you might have someone coming in early that day, 8 o'clock, and they might have to leave at 2 because they have to be in the carpool line by 2:30. And then they go home, get things ready, and they clock in back at 4. I mean, offering that will increase your retention and attract more talent. So again, these are like huge things that you should be offering if you're not already.
That's right. Also, providing professional development opportunities is important as well, whether it be you know, giving them access to training, attending conferences, networking events, whatever it is. Those are also attractive as well. I know, obviously, depending on what your industry is, it might look different, but those are also attractive things for people that are looking to, you know, excel in their careers. So if you're able to give them, the resources for that, that's obviously going to be very attractive to them. Um, we talked about a positive work culture. I mean, if people are happy working there, people that are like looking at applying to a job there, they're going to see the happy employees and are going to be like, well, I want to be like that too. So that's obviously very important. New technology, people want to be somewhere where they have access to the latest and greatest things. It doesn't have to be absolutely everything, but it obviously makes your company look more attractive when you have the best resources to provide for them. And also, we talked about this before, DEI. You want to make sure that people can see themselves working there. So that's also something that you absolutely have to incorporate. Um, Regardless if you're trying to hire more people, also with retention, it helps too. So these are excellent ways to stay competitive as a small to mid-sized business. And we talked about this before. Brand ambassadors, they're either the people that are working there and they're also the people that used to work at your company. So if you have anyone that's retired at your company or, left, but they're still on good terms with you, they're the best people to, leave positive feedback, positive reviews, and, like ask them like, hey, can you leave a review for us on Glassdoor or on Google? I mean, that's only going to make you look better. So you want to make sure that there's also people talking highly about your company that's not just you. So these are things that you definitely want to incorporate into your hiring practices. So an offboarding process that's effective is something that you have to look into if you don't have one already, because you want to make sure that the person not only leaves on good terms, but they also share, their positive experience. Because people that are, looking into filling that vacancy, they want to, hear positive things. So, definitely incorporate that. And we talked about it. People, they're going to Google you, they're going to look you up on everything. If they see, 2 stars, they're going to be like, okay, I don't know if this is right for me. And they're going to obviously want to, like hear positive things about the place that they're potentially going to work at. So the reviews are everything. I know you can't control all the reviews. Sometimes there's an unhappy employee and they obviously want the world to know, but you have to make sure that you have more good than negative, like comments about the company, about the work. So definitely make sure that you do your research on like what people are saying. And if you have people that can leave good reviews for you, obviously, like like organic reviews, you want to make sure that they share them and they post them so people can see them. So we have that. And so this is probably more of like Nikki's expertise because she sees a lot of this as she's recruits. So these are the biggest challenges for recruiting in the next 5 years. Nikki, do you want to go over these?
Yeah, so this is like we're already starting to see a lot of these, but number one is like competition from other companies. I mean, the competition is fierce out there, especially for talent, because there's just so many, niche talent or areas that people are looking to
Hmm.
fill or hire and they can't find. So competition from other companies, attracting and retaining Gen Zs, because again, what we talked about, the Gen Zers basically want to be in a place that they feel they belonged, an extension of themselves,
Hmm.
and they were looking for recognition. So that's going to be number one. And also finding candidates with the right hard skills that they have, the experience in some software that you might be looking for that, because I think after COVID, there was this gap. People did not able to get that hands-on experience. And now we're seeing that the people like with this, coming out of that, 3 to 5 years of experience might not have that, usage of that type of software. So they're having a hard time
Hmm.
finding that 3 to 5 years of experience. They can't
Right.
find it, or just finding someone who has years of experience, or they only have one. And the other thing is just being competitive with salaries. We're getting so much competition out there. We're seeing some candidates who are getting 3 to 4 offers. I'm sorry, within 1 week, and it is extremely competitive. So that's one of the other challenges we're seeing. There's going to get more and more just because there's just so hard to find good talent, especially with something that
Hmm.
someone who has a specific skill. And finding candidates with the right soft skills, because we have to interview, we have to ask great questions. We need to make sure that we're asking the right question, following our gut feelings. So,
Hmm.
and making sure that they're going to align with our core values because they're going to be fine looking for that as well. So now the candidates actually have the balls on her court. It's
Yeah.
on their court. So they're going to be making, they're going to be asking questions. They're going to be making their decision based on what you have to offer them. And I know money is extremely important, but it's going to go beyond that. It's going to be like, okay, do I see myself working there? Do I have any professional development opportunities? And what do you have to offer? Again,
Right.
salary is going to be important. If you cannot compete with the salary, offering a signing on bonus, even retention bonuses for your current employees. So attracting the right talent is going to go more than money. It's going to be more like it's going to be more of a culture. It's going to be key.
Yeah.
We all want to feel in a place that we belong. So those are going to be the biggest challenges right here. And like you mentioned, brand ambassadors, again, they're going to be your employees, your ex-employees are going to be, I tell people all the time, it's like, walking free advertisement because they're going to be walking around telling people
Yeah.
like, yeah, I used to work there. It was great. So one of the things I highly recommend if you don't have this in place, I mean, if you're a bigger corporation or you're having a hard time attracting talent, but you had employees who already left and they were great employees, you might want to do an alumni program, just for them
Hmm.
to all get together, and you might want to bring them in to even like staff for some periods that you might have a shortage even for temp, or they might refer someone. Again, you have to
Right.
become creative because these are challenges they're going to be happening, they're already happening, we're already seeing it. So you have to think outside the box. So having, brand ambassadors, alumni program, bringing back all other employees who have retired or who took a break, those are great ways to attract talent as well. Because again, your best referrals are going to be the people who are your current employees or past employees who left on a good note. You always want to leave that door open all the time.
Right. Perfect. And this is a chart that It might be a little bit hard to read, but the most important thing to look at is the blue bar. So this is categorized by different generations. So what we're going to be really looking at is Gen Z. And Gen Z is one of the more, I mean, it's tricky because we're so used to working with everyone else, but Gen Z is obviously in the workforce now. How time flies. But we have to see what motivates them, right? And so obviously, I mean, no surprise, money, balance. I mean, those are the things that every generation looks for. But what's really interesting is that Gen Z, out of all the generations, they're the ones that value advancement in their careers and upskilling more than anyone. So, making sure that you can accommodate them because as the years go by, I mean, Gen Z is going to be in your company if they aren't already. So the things that they value the most are opportunities to grow. So they want to feel like, you're investing in them, like they're going to, thrive. And I mean, Nikki and I can definitely talk about this that it's like it's harder to keep the younger generations, in a role. Like they have to feel engaged, they have to feel like they belong. Like it's not just about like, you know, just staying at the same job, for, decades. It's like they want to feel like they have a purpose there. And if they don't, they leave. And so you want to make sure that you are, doing everything that you can to keep them there, not by begging them, but by making sure that you accommodate them, with these kind of things. And this might not apply to everyone, but it could be very helpful if you're a smaller business. If you are having trouble finding a very specific person, definitely consider remote roles. It might be something that you don't want to do just yet, but honestly, if you are having a hard time and this is like a very like niche specific role that you have and you've done everything, I mean, like definitely look into expanding into different states because a remote role could definitely, you know, give you more access to talent. So consider that. And this is like absolute, like this is 100% true. Like if the salary is competitive, a person will go on site. So if you work at a business or you're like the owner of a business and you're like, okay, everyone has to be on site. I cannot do hybrid. I cannot do remote. And I mean, like that's non-negotiable. Make sure that the salary is competitive because if it's a competitive salary, people will go on site. It's just right, Nikki. Like you've had people that would be like, absolutely not. And then as soon as they heard the salary, they're like, okay, I'll do it.
I mean, like, when do I start?
Yeah, exactly.
But it because I also wanna add to that is that, I mean, not that and I hear this, like, they say, "Well, they're asking for so much," but you have to take this into consideration, like, the time when we bought our house, I mean, not euros, but for me, like, when we got a house and even the daycare, um, the salary then we could make more with the salary, but now the cost of living has gone up so much that I
Yeah,
mean it's incredible. Yeah, it's paying a mortgage, the interest rates, and on top of that, even just add daycare in there. Uh, so they have to make so much more in order to afford. So it wasn't like now if you want to like buy a house, you have to have like several roommates to pay a mortgage. But this is like the
yeah. In New
truth.
York, yeah.
So, yeah, in New York, I mean, we can talk about New York, I mean, Philadelphia, Atlanta, but this is why it's so competitive. So people, it's not that they're getting, I'm not going to say greedy, but it's just the fact of the matter the cost of living has gone up tremendously in in
Yeah.
some states and cities. So keep that in consideration too as well. So if you're having a hard time finding talent, you might want to and you can't offer remote and you can't offer hybrid. We've had candidates who have gone on site when for premium salary they have. So again, but flex if you offer flexibility, that's also a good way to attract people too. So
Mhm. These are all great um, strategies to like attract people if you're having a hard time trying to fill those roles. And then, I mean, honestly, if you're still having a hard time and you're not really a person that is going for a hybrid remote, the good thing about this is that like regardless if you're, like a law firm or if you're like, a different type of business, regardless of what it is that the hybrid flexible schedule is just very attractive to people in general, right? So you're going to get more applicants. And it's just more cost effective than giving someone a really high salary in the beginning, because it's just something that you can use as like a selling point. So things to, take into consideration, and you can always use this as a raise or a bonus, incentive for people in the long run. Maybe if you can't give a person like the bump in their salary that, that they want, you could probably offer them, a hybrid schedule as an incentive in the future. So like these are things that you can also incorporate as well. And so if you have vacancies at the moment, they could be costing you a lot. So if you're not sure, I recommend that you scan this QR code, and it will take you to our vacancy calculator. And it is great. Like, you can put in how many roles that you have vacant, what the salaries are, and it will show you exactly how much it's costing your business. So yeah, maybe you're not in a rush to hire someone, but it could be costing you a pretty penny. So I definitely recommend that you check this out. All you have to do is scan that QR code, and it will take you directly to our vacancy calculator. It is free to use. Just go ahead and use it. Very helpful. And so that concludes our session today.
Thank you, Rose.
So
It's great.
yeah, no, thank you for sharing your insight. So thank you once again, everyone, for joining us today. We hope you found this helpful. If you have any additional questions, feel free to message them to us. And if you really enjoyed this session, you are going to love working with our recruiters. So reach out to us if you're interested in learning more about our staffing services. So again, thank
Thank
you
you,
so
Rose.
much for joining us today. Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for joining us today. See you all next time.
See you. Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.